Okay, we're back with Watto's wrap with luminary of the game, Shane Watson. A very important question coming up later. It's an anniversary of a very important innings of his, which contained a lot of other paraphernalia that we're going to get to. Stick around for that one. But to get to the more important stuff, Shane Watson, I don't know where we're at in this tournament. It's the week before the finals. I can just tell on your face when we're all just loving the cricket at the moment, right into it. It's very exciting, and we're not hanging out for finals at all. We're just enjoying every single game in and of itself.
Yeah, it's definitely the business end, that's for sure. Now everyone's played 13 games. It's really just like number 4 spots, the one up for grabs right now. But this is a time where you really see, teams who are way out of it, who can't make the finals, really playing all their young guys, and which it sort of in ways sort of goes in the opposite to what you're trying to do to be able to hold a unit together. But then you see if there's other teams starting to get a few speed wobbles in the lead up as well, like my my old team CSK. So, but this is a time where it gets exciting, especially going into the finals, because this is when the big players do stand up.
The players have got to feel a little bit like it's a second phase of a tournament that's sort of been rammed into the schedule. COVID's around, everyone's bubbling. They're in the UAE, especially in Sharjah. That wicket seems pretty lifeless, pretty dull. There's no fans in the stadium. There's about 4 of the 8 teams I suppose there's 3 definite teams who can't make finals. It must be so hard for those guys to have real, professional focus on, getting up for every game, right?
Not with the big auction coming up next season. No, there's plenty to play for. Yeah. There's plenty to play for. And you can see the guys who, it's, even though they're out of the tournament, there is a mega auction coming up. So there is so much to play for. And you can see why even the Sunrisers, they played really well last night to beat RCB. So there's going to Rajasthan beat CSK. So they're up. There is a truckload to play for for those players. There's no, with a big auction coming up, there's no dead rubbers for the players. They are going flat stick, and that everyone will be wanting an opportunity to be able to try and put their name forward in the lead up to what's pretty close around the corner.
Yeah, and it's the same with us with morning after IPLs. There's absolutely no dead rubbers,
dead rubbers
at all. And Watto, can you tell us how important is it to get into the top 2 in this in the IPL playoffs? I know it's a shorter road, practically speaking, but it doesn't matter, or is it just a case of get yourself in the top 4 and find some form and do your damage?
Yeah, look, it's definitely preferable for sure if you're able to finish in the top 2, because just the format of T20 cricket in particular, someone can just have a day out of nowhere and just totally take the game away from you. So by having two cracks at getting into the final, it reduces the chances of that happening and taking your campaign away from you. So I was fortunate enough in the 2 finals that I played in most recently. One for CSK, we got straight through to the final. So you can have a week of more so relaxation and chill and really get your preparation right for that game. The time before for RCB against the Sunrisers, which ended up not working for us or me. I had the worst probably game I've ever had in my life. Anyway, we won't go there. So to be able to go through definitely gives you a bit of extra room to move. But there's also been other times where teams have got on a roll as well by finishing 3rd or 4th. They've got momentum because they're just playing and they've won and they've just built that confidence going through. So the year that the Sunrisers beat the RCB, the year that I was playing for them, they'd finished, I think, might have been 4th, and they played really well against, pretty sure it was Mumbai, and then came through on a roll and ended up winning the IPL. So it can work both ways, but ideally you have a bit of a buffer to play with just in case someone comes in, just takes the game away from you and your campaign's done.
It feels like RCB are kind of the story of the last couple of days anyway, because, losing that game last night I think was really significant, because if Punjab beat CSK tonight, that would be a huge missed opportunity for RCB to then make into those top 2 spots. But the sort of makeup of that team is interesting at the moment, RCB. We'll talk about Christo, who's obviously a wonderful bloke and a friend of the show, but his tournament is...
He's got big hands too.
He's got some big old hands, big old buckets, Christo. 6 innings with the blade, 5 runs off 16 balls, 3 wickets off 13 overs, going 8 and over. He's won everything everywhere, Christo, but those stats aren't great.
Yeah, his opportunity batting at number 3 sort of bewilders me quite a bit. But that is a little bit of the pattern that RCB do get into, is just making pretty significant sort of changes with people's roles, which then affects other people's roles. They do it quite often. And then people just start to get the team dynamic and balance gets out of kilter a little bit. So with that, with Christo sort of going up to number 3, where he's had his success, and he's had a lot of it in the last, say, 5 years, has been coming in, power hitting right at the end under pressure. Yeah. That's where he's nailed it, and he's been incredible at that. His bowling has been more so when just to bowl through the middle overs, like a couple of overs, really here and there. If the conditions really suit, if he's playing at Sharjah, for example, he'll probably bowl more overs because his cutters, his variations are really effective. But I just think it's totally out of his strength is moving him up to number 3. It blows me away. And then because of him moving up, and you got Bharat, who's batting at number 4, AB de Villiers is coming in like at number 6. Yeah. And last night, he hardly faced any balls. If he faced another 3 or 4 balls, as a minimum, RCB win incredibly easily. So it blows me away. Yes, Glenn Maxwell has just been absolutely on fire. It's so incredible to see him, obviously in an environment that's allowing him to play with that freedom, which is just, it's so special to BRC because he's incredible with what he's been able to do, his skill set. But AB de Villiers, they've got to get him up to 3 or 4, whatever it is. They just got to get him up the order and stop stuffing around with like Dan Christian. If they're going to play him in his best spot, which is coming in death overs, being able to like score runs at will, really under pressure against the best bowlers. That's what he's been able to do. So it does really surprise me, and it won't surprise me because of these changes if RCB do just get a little bit, they don't under pressure, they don't come through.
Watto, let's talk about Glenn Maxwell for a second. I mean, he's had an excellent second phase of the tournament. Well, he was actually excellent in the first phase as well. Yeah. It strikes me that he has become like a middle order mainstay in that side. You can rely on him. You know, his consistency is there. And as an Aussie who, you know, so many of us believe him to be one of the most gifted players this decade, you know, even this century in Australia, who's, you know, there's so much more that needs to be said about the environments he's gone into and managing him and what he could have been or could still be, right? But at the moment, he's the man in a side packed full of stars, and it's great to see. We're used to seeing him as a bit of a luxury player in Australia who sort of fiddles around 6 or 7, sometimes comes off, sometimes doesn't. Do you think going into the T20 World Cup, and I'm sorry for an indulgent Aussie question, but like, should he play that same role for Australia now as well?
Oh, he absolutely should. It's been incredible what he's been able to do. But that's a skill set that he's got. When he's has the freedom and he feels comfortable just to be able to be himself, which, well, it shouldn't be that hard to be able to be yourself in a team.
Anyway. It's hard.
Yes, shouldn't be that hard. That's what an environment is for, is to be able to create that freedom for people just to be able to play their game at their best. So obviously RCB's been able to do that for him. And it's incredible skill. So we need to be able to make sure that, one, he's got that opportunity as an impact player through those middle overs as a starting point, because he hits boundaries better than just about anyone in the world through those middle overs, and that's one of the hardest places to be able to hit boundaries. And we just need to create the environment that is just not which is allowing him to have that freedom, instead of it being, it seems like it has been in the past, very much teacher, student, don't do this, do that, don't do this, instead of just allowing him to do his thing without no restrictions, no nothing, just full faith in his incredible skill that he's got. And if the coaching staff and the leadership group around the Aussie team were able to do that, that's what we saw in the 2015 World Cup. Some of the innings that he played in that 2015 World Cup, because the environment was around him, was absolutely, it's world class and match winning innings, and he does it at will. And the Aussie team just needs to continue to create that environment, because players like Glenn Maxwell don't just fall out of trees. And we've been very good. The Australian environment, Australian cricket, has been very good at stifling one of our best talents, as you said. Sam, one of the best talents we've had nearly in this, like for a long, long time. We've got to stop getting in his way and allow him to have that freedom, because it's incredible to see the skill that he's got.
It's amazing to see Mumbai still have a pretty difficult tournament, but still close enough. I mean, it's a huge game tonight with KKR and Rajasthan. That'll probably decide who finishes fourth if Rajasthan win. But Mumbai, I mean, if they make it into the four, do their 7 losses they've had this year kind of already, like, do they just go out the window, or is it a new tournament? I mean, if you lose 7 games in a 14-game tournament, there are obviously significant deficiencies, or you've got weak spots in your team. But why do I still feel like if Mumbai make fourth, they can win the tournament?
Yeah, they've done it. They've done this before as well. They've just snuck through and then won the tournament. So because I've got so many match winners, like genuine match winners throughout their whole team, but bat, ball, and in the field as well, you do get nervous when they get into the finals, because they're big players who know how to perform in pressure situations. So all the other teams, well, the other 3, RCB, CSK, and Delhi, they would not be wanting MI to sneak through, because they are so dangerous. Yes, they haven't had a great tournament. Their sort of biggest weaknesses have been their middle order, which has always been their strength. With Pollard, with Hardik Pandya, with even Ishan Kishan, who was batting in that middle order as well. They just haven't been able to find their groove at all. But there's no doubt, like, Sharjah's been surprisingly a very poor wicket, because previous times that I've played there in the last IPL that was there as well, the wicket was still really good. It was a high-scoring ground. Like, teams were scoring 200 at will. So I'm not sure what's exactly happened there. And MI have been exposed there with their power hitters in that middle order, but playing at Sharjah in particular. But that's been their weak spot. But those guys can definitely stand up. They've performed under pressure. Pollard in particular has performed under pressure very consistently. So if they sneak through, the slate's white clean, and they could easily just get on a roll and look out.
Watto, most people watching, and including us, have not played at the highest level. And so, twos and threes. Some guys come back through the grades. But
played a semi-final in threes once.
Probably on a similar wicket to what I'm about to ask.
It was actually in Sharjah,
I think. So, like, the other night, Coulter-Nile, James Neesham, Jimmy Neesham, took a lot of poles and just seemed really hard to play. You know, and we've seen guys like Harshal Patel, guys who just bowl a little bit slower than the express quicks, just so hard to play. And for the uninitiated, why are these guys who, I mean, Nathan Coulter-Nile, he can bend his back, like, don't get me wrong, but they come in, they bowl their cutters, they bowl at a slower pace, a little bit of off-speed stuff, and they seem to go so well. I mean, Christo on our show, well, actually, that didn't publish, we took it off air, but he said, I don't know how that happened, but he said Harshal Patel, you know, I don't know how he gets wickets. You know, they just keep hitting him up the chute. What are the why are these guys so hard to play? Because they don't, to the untrained eye, it's hard to understand why they're so good.
Yeah, so Nathan Coulter-Nile, like Coult's, when he's a great impact bowler, especially when teams use him through the middle, because he bowls, as we saw in the game in Sharjah, the wicket was keeping quite low. He bowls a good length, hits the wicket pretty hard, and his speed's late 130s, 140s when he's flying. So he's effective. He's got a pretty good change of pace. He's got a good bouncer as well. He can nail his Yorker. So he's got, like, Nathan Coulter-Nile, he's got a pretty all-round package, and especially on a wicket that's keeping a bit low, if he just hits the top of the stumps like he did, he's able to get some wickets. Someone like Harshal Patel, I played with him at RCB, and he didn't really have that much success. Like, up until this season, everything's just fallen into line for him perfectly. He's been able to execute his variations in particular really well. His Yorker, he's been able to execute at will, and also his change of pace. He's had that off cutter, that dipping off cutter, for a long, long time. But this time, he's just, whether he's getting more revs on the ball, a bit more drop, whether his arm's a bit faster, so it's harder to pick up that variation. He's like, guys aren't picking that change of pace that well. Even like quality, world-class sort of batsmen aren't really picking his variation. So whatever he's done, it's just been a perfect storm for Harshal. And now he takes wickets. He's taken wickets for fun at the moment. But previously, his off-cutter, slower ball just lobbed up out of his hand. Normally when he bowled it, a lot of the time he'd get launched. He wasn't able to really execute his Yorker and get that in, and that normally got launched. So whereas this time he's just got it all right. His skills are exactly where it needs to be. So it's been brilliant to be able to see. And that's the beauty of just cricket in general. Like just because you don't develop all the skills at a younger age. Like Harshal Patel, I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but it'd be definitely like late 20s. And it's taken him this long for all his skills to be able to come together and refine them to a point. And that's the beauty of the game of cricket in particular, is you don't need to be a young gun to actually be really good. You can develop those skills a little bit later. And it takes you a bit of time to put those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together to be really effective. And Harshal's certainly shown that, and he's been very dominant. But then someone like Jimmy Neesham, I think since he's had his back issues, like initially when he bowled a bit more pace, he's had back issues, so his pace has been a bit down. I think he more got lucky than anything in the last couple of games because his pace has been down. He's definitely not as effective as what he was. He's off cutters and changes of pace, and not too bad. But I think the wicket definitely in Sharjah more so helped him out because the previous times that he played at Kings 11, Kings 11, Punjab Kings now last season, and sort of got hit quite a bit because his variations aren't as effective as what they were. But the Sharjah wicket's certainly helping him out.
I think it's only Jadeja who like towelled up Patel. He hit him for like 70 off and over, didn't he, in the first phase of the tournament? But apart from that, no one's been able to hit Harshal Patel. I'm going to ask you, in fact, now I think about it, I might have asked this before, but I'll ask you anyway. We're talking about like mystery spinners, and I suppose they've been less important this week because of the nature of the Deccan Sharjah, but mystery spinners, especially in Narine, I'm watching him because he comes from behind his back and sort of flicks it down. I mean, are there any cues that you can pick up when he's bowling? Because it really does seem like guys are playing it off the deck, and almost guessing. I mean, you would have come across him in the past many times, I'm sure. Like, are there any cues you can pick up to actually detect which way he's spinning the ball?
Yeah, not really. When he's bowling well and his arm speed's faster, then it is harder to pick up his variation because it's hard to see exactly the angle of his wrist because his arm's coming fast, like his arm's coming over faster. So that's when Narine, the reason why he's really effective is because of that. You only start to pick the ball as it's come out of his hand. You're not actually picking the variation up at release point. So that's when he's like really effective. There's times when he wasn't able to really, because he was trying to keep his arm straighter, he wasn't able to really bowl that carom ball, that flick ball as effectively. He was mainly just bowling his off spinner. So then you can sort of like just step into his line and hit the ball straight to the leg side. So he's not nowhere near as effective. But when he's obviously made some adjustments to his technique now with that arm going behind his back, which is I suppose a technical thing to be able to keep his arm straighter, so there's less chance of sort of bending.
Right.
And he's been able to find that balance between still having a legal action, but still having that faster arm. So his variations, it's harder to pick up. So yeah, you are more so playing off the wicket, more so than even someone like Rashid Khan. His arm's a bit faster, but with a wrong, and you can sit like your wrong or the leg spin, you can see just enough variation with his wrist. Whereas Narine, yeah, it's harder to pick up, and you've seen him be really, really effective. Like, he hasn't been that effective in the IPLs over the last couple of years because he's had troubles with his action and his arm's been slower, and so his variations are much easier to pick up. But this season, he looks like he's got that balance right, and he's been very effective.
I mean, Delhi's top of the pops. Haven't even talked about them. I know you and Graham Swan this week had a lot of praise for Rishabh Pant's captaincy, and I was going to ask you: do you think it would have been, awkward for Shreyas to come back into the side as the guy who was formerly captain, got injured, Rishabh's captain, and they keep it with Rishabh, given that Shreyas is doing pretty well. Pant not scoring too many runs either. What is it that's made his captaincy great? And can you just add into that, how does Ricky Ponting play in with that as well?
Yeah, I was surprised that Shreyas didn't get the captaincy back coming into the second phase. Because Shreyas has done a great job as a leader. He's a very sort of impressive young man. He's a very skillful batsman, but let alone as the leader, he's been very impressive. He's been guided by Ricky Ponting incredibly well. So it was a bit of a surprise when Shreyas didn't get it back from Rishabh Pant after that first phase. But I fully trust everything that Ricky Ponting does. He does it all for the right reasons. He obviously just thought it was just going to have a bit too much of an impact on the team, or Richard because of just his gut feel in a game or how he was talking to his players, whatever it was just going to give the team a little bit more of an advantage. So, yeah, it's been impressive. Like I was very surprised when Richard got the captaincy because of the way he plays is very – it's high risk. He's incredibly good, and as we saw even during the Test summer, like he's got all the skills to bring to the party, depending on what situation that he's got. But he's a bit sort of freewheeling, a bit reckless at times when he's especially playing T20 cricket. So I thought he'd sort of bring that into his captaincy. But just having Ricky Ponting there as like a real a great sounding board, an incredibly sound thinker on the game of cricket, and just an incredible leader. He was always going to get the best out of whatever leader he had working under him. And Rishabh Pant, he's very fortunate in a way that he's had Ricky to be able to help sort of guide him with his captaincy caper, because Rishabh's done an incredible job. And, well, Delhi have had a lot of success with him being captain. They've been incredibly consistent. So I suppose with that, you don't want to change a winning formula. And the relationship between Rishabh and Ricky is obviously working very well. But initially, there's no doubt Shreyas, I reckon, would have been a bit of a hit to his ego, as it would be for most people, because he's done a great job. You could see how much pride he had in captaining Delhi and to be a young leader. But Delhi are doing incredible things. The way they're playing, they've got a really well-balanced team. And if Marcus Stoinis comes in, they're going to be nearly unbeatable, I think. But I'll be surprised if they rush Marcus Stoinis with the T20 World Cup coming up. But then moving to the point of Ricky Ponting, I know I've already touched on it, but yeah, he's the best leader that I worked under, just from across the board, being an incredible man manager, being a great team man, even as a leader, really caring for his players, believing in them more than you believe in yourself. He's just got this incredible skill just to be able to just know what's required, what to say at the right times, how to really instill confidence in every player. And the Delhi boys in general would be absolutely stoked to be able to have him looking after them and guiding them through their careers, not just technically because he knows the game inside out from a technical point of view, but from a mental and environment point of view, he's as good as it gets.
I mean, just the team talks alone. I mean, he's got a career in public speaking at corporate events. If that's what he wants to do, Ricky Ponting can do anything. But if I could use Ricky Ponting as in corporate speaking, now if I could use Ricky Ponting as a segue into an anniversary that came up this year, Watto, when Ricky Ponting's team 12 years ago won the Champions Trophy in South Africa. You scored 105 in the final against New Zealand, chased it down. You and Tim Payne opened the batting, actually. But I was just looking at a photo. There's the whole team in white coats on the podium there. I just want to know, where's your white coat?
Well, at the moment it's in storage because I'm sort of moving. But that jacket has a pride and place in my cupboard every time.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit, like it's a bit short, so I can't really try it on and wear it around my house just to show it off, because it's a beautiful jacket, but it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But Brett Lee and I, we love those jackets. Even though they didn't fit that night, we were just on the dance floor with them. They were just the ultimate prize that we're trying to chase.
Yeah.
And they've done it. Yeah, they did it so well. But that was an incredible time. That not just the blazers that we got, and the jackets, but also just that time for me and for Ricky. I know how big a time it was, because that was 2009, after just about all the legends of Australian cricket had sort of retired. Ricky Ponting, Brett Lee were just about the last ones who were playing in that team. We had a big transitional sort of phase. So for us to be able to win that knockout ICC tournament was an incredible achievement. I know for Ricky as well, it was one of his sort of finest achievements to be able to help sort of galvanise a much less experienced team and be able to win an ICC event.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention you're 136 and 2 for in the semi-final as well. You had a pretty decent tournament. But also next time you come
Thanks
on.
Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that against England. Yeah. Next time we want you with a white jacket and a baggy green conducting Watto's rap.
Yeah.
If possible, please.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to. It is in like deep in storage at the moment till I move into my house. So it might have to give me like a couple of months and I'll just come back on, even if it's just for a cameo, and I'll have them both.
Well, your baggy green would just be on your bedpost,
That'd be
wouldn't
your
it?
bedpost, yeah.
That's not in storage at the moment.
It's in a safe, locked away, lock and key.
I like it. Well, I think next week we haven't even discussed this, but next week may well be the last, Watto's wrap. So that's going to be sad, but triumphant at the same time. And it sounds like we won't be successful in having you in the fancy dress that we've requested, but that we just requested from Shane Watson. Yeah. But Watto, thanks again for the week, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to next week to see what actually happens in this tournament. We've been waiting a long time. You think Delhi's kind of hard to beat, but there's obviously a couple of others in the mix as well. So until then.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Go on, you boys.